Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Pretend Mode 9494 and says, am I the arsehole for refusing to babysit my nephews again for free? I'm 29 female, child free by choice. My sister C, 27 female, has two boys ages 3, 5 and 2. We live close to each other and I've been in their lives since the beginning. We are each other's only family. We come from a broken and dysfunctional family. I love the boys, but they are a lot of work, especially on top of my own career in social work and my personal reasons for not wanting kids of my own. I watch them, help out, babysit probably 10 to 20 hours a week currently, and it's getting exhausting. The times I've been needed have slowly increased, and over the last 7-ish months it's been like this. At first it was C looking for a part-time job, going to mandated courses to get unemployment, occasional movie nights with friends, etc., which I was okay with. Now I spend most of my free time at their house. Lately the cause has been that her best friend's mum is dying and C needs to be there. She's a single mum and I get that it's hard, but recently I feel like she's been using me, and I rarely see my fiance as we both work shifts that can change all the time. Sometimes when she's asked me to watch them and I've had some other plans, C sends me a voice message of the boys crying, missing me, guilt-tripping me, saying it's such a shame I care more about myself than them, telling me she would ask someone else if she had anyone else to ask, saying really mean things about me being selfish for wanting to enjoy date night and she has to choose between her kids and her best friend's dying mum. I could handle if that's all it was, but now it's also affecting the next time we meet. When I get there, the house is a mess. There's nothing to eat and they happen to have a day for a shower/bath. Or C casually mentions I need to put together a gym bag or something similar for them the next day. These weird extra things that are obviously revenge. The first time this happened, I assumed she'd be grateful I helped where I could, but it wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have time to do everything. I was quickly proven wrong. Before she got home, she casually asked if I had done the extra things, and when I hadn't, not all anyway, she suddenly had to stay a little later. This happened a few times, and I'm ashamed to admit it took me too long to understand what was happening. I'm just glad she was updating me on her estimated arrival time. She usually never did that. Another thing she does for revenge, I feel like could be my exhausted interpretation, is not prepare meals for the kids or even leave money. When I go to the store, she promises to pay me back, but you guessed it, tries to guilt me into saying she doesn't have to pay. She's also not kept her word about some things she's promised, saying she doesn't want to do things for me if I can't help her with the boys. The excuses and backtracking on stuff start immediately if I don't do exactly what she wants. The latest example, I asked to borrow a dress for a wedding because I didn't want to buy one, and we had always borrowed each other's clothes, and she agreed. 4 days before the wedding, I couldn't show up as fast as she wanted on short notice, so she said I could forget about borrowing the dress. She had forgotten she'd need it herself. I had to panic buy one. Last month, she promised to pick me up after leaving my car for some maintenance, and she didn't show up. I was stranded. Took her 2.5 hours to answer her phone and get there. She also had the audacity to huff and puff about how inconvenient it was she had to drive me. Sorry this is so long, but it's been mind-blowing writing this all down and seeing what I'm putting up with. I'm such a doormat. So yesterday I told her I couldn't come today when she called desperately needing me to watch the boys for the evening. And when she started to her tirade of me being selfish, I kind of just snapped. I told her to shut up and listen. If she thought I was that horrible of a human and so selfish, she had two options. Either stop relying on me so much and letting her kids be exposed to my selfishness, or I'll really start being selfish and will not watch them free of charge ever again. Never do anything extra without being compensated. She hung up without saying anything. After I'd stopped shaking, I hate confrontation as you can imagine, I started to really panic as I felt like I just lost my last remaining family member. My fiance said it was a long time coming and I should have stood up for myself ages ago, but he's biased as he loves me. I don't really have time for proper friends outside of work colleagues, so I don't know who else to ask if I made the biggest mistake of my life. What if I don't see my nephews again? What if I had just done it a bit longer and she'd eased a bit? Am I the arsehole for telling her to choose between my options? ETA, my two examples seem like I ask her or need her stuff often, which I don't. The promises she breaks can be just as simple as having food for the boys when I'm with them. The dress and leaving me with a ride are just specific events that were easier to explain, but I quickly realized this is not accurate. Absolutely hell no. When it said that she was sending you recordings with the kids crying to try and guilt trip you when you dared to have other plans, and the revenge chores, broken promises, and leaving you stranded for 2.5 hours, it's not her struggling in this. She's just absolutely taken advantage of this situation. And like you said yourself, as you was writing it out, you can see it as clear as day now. The fact that she's weaponizing her own children against you is just bloody awful. And I would absolutely stand firm on your decision, because you just reclaimed your life from someone who was treating you like hired help without any pay. But Assault 1 says, you lost an abuser, not a family member. This is an abusive relationship, and she uses every tool of an abuser to control you and your behavior. What she has been doing to you is verbal, psychological, and financial abuse. It is beyond messed up and isn't love. Please set your hard boundaries and stand by them. She needs the reality check, and you deserve not to be used and abused. Block her so you don't go back. Not the arsehole. Tessa Catherine says, 100% agree with this. Let's not forget the emotional blackmail with those voice notes of your nephews crying about how much they love and miss you. Your fiancé is right. You need to cut her off a long time ago. She needs to be put on serious timeout so she can learn that her abusive behavior has consequences. She needs to get herself some serious help, and you do too, hun. If you're not already in therapy, I recommend seeking it out so you can learn how to process these feelings and learn how to set firm boundaries and stand up for yourself. It sounds like your fiancé will be willing to help you work on those things and support you when things are difficult. Block your sister. Don't pander to her anymore. She needs to learn to be a full-time mum, not a part-time mum. You did not choose to birth those tiny humans. She did. It's time for her to step up and stop relying on you. Please see a therapist to help you navigate this time and process all you've been through. Not the arsehole. I See Worldliness says, you know that not seeing your nephews again is never going to happen. Your selfish sister has been taking advantage of you for too long, and to her, your standing up for yourself is just a temporary setback in her manipulations. The only way her behavior is going to change is when yours changes. You need to set some clear boundaries and follow with them solid expectations of how you expect her to treat you. For example, guilt tripping, name calling, accusations, etc. are to end. If she tries any of these manipulative tactics, there will be clear consequences, and you need to follow through. If you tell her you can't babysit and she starts to guilt, you tell her something like no babysitting for a month because of her behavior. Altering your behavior is the only way you can change hers. Oh, and all those times she needs to comfort her friend with a dying mother. You realize those are just BS. She wants free from kids' time and is just trying to play on your empathy. Your sister is a class A asshole. Opie says thank you. I feel so stupid. I only thought about the friend's mum thing being BS last week. I asked C how she was doing, and she took a second too long to remember what I was talking about. So Opie comes in with her first update and says, a lot has happened, and I'm trying to write concisely. During the first 24 hours after me telling her that ultimatum, I decided not to answer her calls or texts to let her cool down. She called 77 times, sent over 100 texts and voice messages. They're mostly just her calling me a horrible person who abandons her family. I outlined a few rules with my fiance's help for the future if she comes to her senses and agrees to my terms. I wanted them to be ready, even though it looked like she will never come around. I had conditions like I could watch them up to 3 times in 2 weeks and not more than 4 hours at a time. Meals needed to be provided, no bath time or bedtime. I'm not spending any money. I got messages from an unknown number. Fiancé says it's an app or something, saying how horrible of a sister I am because now they have to watch their mum die alone with C there to comfort them. Based on the suspicions I had earlier and the language similarities, I think this was my sister pretending to be her friend. I talked to my supervisor on Friday afternoon and asked for her opinion. I first asked if it was okay to talk about personal stuff, and she was great about it. I don't work with children and CPS has never been a part of my work, so I wanted to double check with someone more senior. We made a report together on C. The supervisor said it's better to do so, especially now it's escalated and she might retaliate against me by hurting the boys in some way, as she's obviously not above that. I'm probably going to give her till next week to cool off before resuming contact, and depending on what the messages/voice messages say, then I might contact her. If they're abusive as now, I probably won't respond at all. It makes me unbelievably upset, but I hope the boys will also get a more stable environment without me, as she's using them as pawns with me. Fiancé says hello and wants everyone to know he's here for me and wants to assure everyone I'm not really that bad of a doormat, just for C for some reason. I'm looking into counselling through my work. It's too expensive out of pocket. Thanks for the messages and the shift kicks I obviously needed. For some reason I've become blind to my sister's behaviour. I was only concerned whether I'd lose the boys from my life. Probably will update when or if I resume contact with my sister if people want to know how it goes. But then OP adds another update and says I've been getting DMs asking for an update. I posted one in the comments on the weekend, but putting it here also for visibility. Boring update, but my fiancé unblocked C for a few hours to see if she was still messaging abusive stuff. She was. Nothing new there. CPS called and asked for more info, which I provided. They wanted to know specific dates and whether I had proof, and I sent them a lot of screenshots of messages with C. I chose to make the report with my name on it as I felt it added credibility, and it also kind of felt like a punishment for me to use my name, especially after waiting so long to make the report, meaning my sister could now also know for sure it was me who made the report and I'd face the consequences of it. I've had one Zoom appointment with a psychologist through my work. It's been great so far, and I already got homework on boundaries. Seems fast, but they said they're trained to move quickly as we are usually provided 5 visits, and there should be progress in that time. I haven't heard from C or the kids other than the abusive messages. I'm ashamed to say I've driven by the house a couple of times just to see if everything looks normal, and it does. I had a talk with my fiancé after a commenter suggested the kids might need to be removed from C, and if we're planning on fostering or whatever if it came to that. We aren't. We don't want kids and have known that from the beginning. The day-to-day life as a family with kids sounds absolutely horrible, to be honest. There's nothing that appeals to us. We would become resentful and probably lose ourselves in the process if we went there. I don't know how much there is to update after this. Maybe if the contact resumes, but honestly I'm afraid to send her anything as she's just insulting me. I don't think she'd even really read what I wrote if I tried. Around 4 days later, OP adds another update and says today was my birthday. I'm 30, yay, and I just had an ordinary work day. When I got home, my sister was waiting for me. Fiancé wasn't home yet. C congratulated me and actually seemed normal at first. But when I couldn't behave like I normally would, attentive, asking if I could help her, etc., she got irritated. She said she'd known I never loved the boys and was only jealous I didn't have kids. I tried to make them love me more, and then I'd falsify reports to CPS and get custody. I actually kind of laughed, it was so ridiculous. I told her I don't even want kids and wouldn't take hers even if they were offered. Might have been a cruel thing to say, but I'm just so tired. She somehow got angrier, saying how horrible the boys will now feel knowing I'd abandoned them and proving I didn't love them. I knew I couldn't win with her, so I just asked her why she was here and where the kids were. She said their whereabouts were none of my business. Fair enough, and she was here to tell me I'd never see them again. I'd accepted that as a possibility, or even probable, so I didn't really react, which made her even angrier. She tried to grab me, but I stood about 6 foot away, so she couldn't reach me, and I just ran inside the building and closed the door behind me. Luckily, it locks automatically. She followed, so I shouted through the door that I would call the police if she didn't leave. She kicked the door and left without saying anything. I went to our apartment and sat on the floor. My hands were shaking, so I couldn't write, but I made a voice recording on my phone on everything in case I need to contact the police or a lawyer or something. After around 20 minutes just breathing, the door lock rattled and I got really scared until I understood it was my fiancé getting home from work. I was still on the floor, so he obviously freaked out. I told him everything, and he said we should make a police report and also update the CPS people about C's irregular behavior. I feel weirded out reporting her because we endured much worse as kids and don't think anyone reported our parents. But my fiancé asked if I would make this report at work if it was someone else's family. I said it's not fair as I don't work with kids for this exact reason, but I guess I'd report it. It's getting late and I can't sleep, worrying about making the police report tomorrow and wondering what to tell the CPS. I guess I'll explain the whole thing and they decide what's relevant. Oh, CPS let us know on Monday, I think, that my sister is under investigation, and they gave me the contact info for their caseworker, so at least that report will be easy to make. So it was a month later that OP came in again with another update and says, sorry it took a while, but I've been trying to keep busy, taking extra shifts at work, as I miss the boys. I haven't heard from them at all since my sister kicked at our door. CPS has been in contact a few times, but as we let them know, we wouldn't be willing to take the boys unless absolutely necessary, not even for a short foster placement. They haven't been telling us much about their situation. It feels like we don't know much anymore, but I guess we're outsiders now, so I get it. The family court date is set for next month and we're debating whether to ask if we can go, but I honestly think they wouldn't allow it now as we have nothing to do with the solution. I don't know whether we would be able to even attend if we agreed to foster them. Usually the family courts here are quite closed. As far as the boys go, I've accepted I'll probably never see them again. I wish that if I could keep tabs on them, I can introduce myself when they're 10 years or so older and they have their own phones, etc. It's far away, but I have to have something to look forward to. CPS is actively still investigating. Until they stopped telling us anything, it sounded quite sure that at least a shorter foster placement was needed. My sister failed to show up to mandatory meetings, wasn't available when they tried to reach out to her, and at least once C arrived at the house without the kids, just as CPS came by, and they realized the kids had been home alone for the time C was gone. They contacted me to ask if I knew where my sister was and for how long, but I had stopped talking to her at that point. C said she had just dropped off something the street over, so she was gone for less than 3 minutes. I don't know if I believe that, and the CPS didn't think so either. The reason we don't want/can't take the boys is mainly our health. I have a chronic illness and my fiance is in a wheelchair. We live in a 1-bedroom apartment and having the boys' beds and stuff would make it inaccessible for a wheelchair, and that's just not okay. In addition, we don't want kids at all. I don't think I'll be a great parent and can't expect my fiance to parent either, as he didn't sign up for it either. I hope the boys are small enough so that they are easy to place, whether temporarily or permanently. It breaks my heart, but at the same time, I just can't do it. Thanks for all the well wishes, and ask me if you have any questions. So the next and last update on this so far came 6 months later, and said I last updated in late March, not knowing how the custody proceedings would go in family court. They were planned for April. Apparently the first court date came and went without my sister there. She didn't notify them either. She just didn't show up. The next date was set for late July, and they issued fines if she didn't show up again, and sent a certified letter telling her that if she's not present, the case can still move forward. They wanted to make sure she wasn't just trying to delay things by staying away. The boys were placed together with a family, and they resumed contact with us and wanted us to meet them. They are now 4 and almost 3 years old. It's been several weeks, around 10 since we last met, so they were shy at the beginning, but I think at least the older one recognized us. They were timid and quiet, but I guess they haven't settled in yet. This family is planning on having them as long as needed, and I'm glad. They looked healthier, gained some weight, and overall just better color of skin, etc. I hadn't even noticed they looked bad before, but now with the improvement, the difference is clear. The July court date also came and went with no word from my sister, so then the court had to decide if they make the decisions without her and consider her as a parent who abandoned their kids, arrest and hold her until the next court date or send another invitation to show up. To my knowledge, we're still waiting on their decision. Apparently it's not common to have family court about custody issues with no legal guardians or parents present. I just wish this was all over, obviously, but it's not my call to make, so I'm just focusing on building a relationship with the boys. I see them around once a week, either alone or with my fiance. We could apply to see them without supervision, but I have no need to. We understand the boys need to be protected as they have practically no one. We still think we did the right thing by not taking them in. Fiance had a scary summer with pneumonia, and we wouldn't have been able to be with the boys. We're not allowed in court per se, but as the boys' closest relative who keeps in touch, the CPS keeps us informed enough, especially now as the visitation with them resumed. I'm content with how things are. I wish none of this happened, and I feel really guilty as it seems my sister's mental health was tolerable before I started to push back, and now she's unrecognizable. Not that I've seen her in months, but still. My fiance said he thinks the breakdown was inevitable, and just happened to happen now. Thanks for the well wishes and messages. Ask anything in the comments. I'll be around for a few days, hopefully responding. AJ the Juice Man says, your fiance is right. You didn't cause this. Just stop being the dam holding back the inevitable flood. It's so good to hear the boys are healthier and that you're building a relationship with them. That's the most important part of this whole mess. Intrigued reply saying, agree. You didn't break your sister. You just stopped carrying a weight that was never yours to begin with. Snoo Cauliflower says, thank you for the update. I'm glad they seem to be thriving. As horrible as all that was for you, that was the right decision for all of you involved. Wonderful that you're able to resume your relationship with the boys. Has anyone else in your family heard from your sister? Regardless, this seems to be the best both for her and the children. OP replied saying, we have no family. All dead. The rest assumed dead or gone some other way. We last saw any of them when I started school. That's why it was on me to handle the situation. They could have easily disappeared as mum and 2 small kids. What an absolute sad but also hopeful situation. That's the way it felt to me anyway. OP went from this exploitation and this manipulation and abuse that we saw in the first part of the story to literally giving these kids a chance. The fact that they immediately looked healthier just made it a little bit hopeful, and I really did like the fact that OP's still able to be in their lives. And I think OP needs to remember that they didn't break the family, just revealed what was already broken and gave those boys a chance at stability. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.